What if your next big insight didn't come from your own mind, but from a dialogue with something non human, yet logical, and yet endlessly creative? AI isn't just a tool, it can be your thought partner if you use it like a system. It's not a magic trick. So stop treating AI like a vending machine where you just GFGI it. Start using it like a partnered operating system. Welcome to the Optimization Edge, the podcast for high performing professionals, academics, or individuals who want better thinking, sharper systems, and higher leveraged performance. If you're here, it's because you're not just chasing productivity. You want meaningful optimization, ways to get better at the things that matter most to you. And getting better is what we do. In today's episode, it's about human and AI teaming, how we can use that to unlock strategic clarity, creativity, and of course, speed and productivity. It's not just about using it to get things done faster, but it's about understanding how generative AI thinks, how we can work with it, and how we can achieve better things together. I won't be talking about the very latest tactics on AI or specific prompting examples because those things change frequently. And if you're looking for the latest tool on which AI is better, whether to use Perplexity or whether to use Claude or whether to use Gemini, you're not going to find that answer here because it's changing every week, practically every day. So this is a podcast that's much more enduring knowledge, or how do I dare say, wisdom. How do I get better and get smarter? And how do I make the most of AI? And somewhere along the way, I'll share with you my agentic AI prompt that I've shared with a few friends just to kind of help them with respect to avoiding some of these paid for services like on LinkedIn or Teal that will help them assist in job hunting and qualifying themselves for job opportunities. So let's get into it. Here's the number one breakthrough of the podcast. People who get the most out of AI don't treat it like Google. They're not just searching, and they're not going to interact with it like a search agent. They treat AI like a modular system, a computational partner. So think of yourself as a computer and all the components of the computer. And the AI is part of your operating system. And in a computer, you've got an input, you've got a program, you've got data, you've got memory, you've got storage, and you've got output. And the input is essentially the context that we're providing the AI in the context window. The program is the structured query that you're asking the AI to do. And specifically, how good is your question? How specific are you articulating what you need out of it? The data, like any computer, has data and processes data, which is information. It's going to give you information. You're going to give it information in the form of context. You're going to give it data, and it's going to give you data in return. Memory. Most AIs actually tell you, oh, thank you, I've updated my memory with what you just told me. So essentially, it's short-term storage. It's the interim outputs that you might want to save that your AI has given you because you're going to refine it and refeed it back into the system. You've got storage, which is, hey, I've perfected this prompt, or I have really good output from the LLM. I'm going to take that and I'm going to save it so I can use that in some other activity or in my final report. And then you've got, of course, the output, which is really the stuff that it kicks back out to you. So whatever it kicks back out, you're going to save in your storage, as we mentioned before. So what you share, decide, or implement is essentially your output. So if you learn to think like a system, AI becomes your most powerful teammate. So what's the science say about how to use AI in this quickly shaping landscape of technology? Well, it says that AI clearly is here to stay. AI is all about context, and it's all about trying to figure out how to combine agents and protocols to work together on your behalf. And my research says that three studies are really relevant, regardless if you're thinking about AI at the enterprise level or how best to apply it, or thinking about it as a personal productivity optimizer. These three studies actually look at it in multiple ways. One, there's this meta-analysis that was done by the Asia Pacific Society, or at least that's where the study was published, around collaboration with AI. And it clearly shows that the more collaborative you are with the AI, the more creative you're going to be. And I could talk about that in detail. An MIT Sloan study said that when humans and AI team, you generally get the best output. And defining best is throughput, on task, on spec, and optimized for creativity. And I'll get to those details as well. And then there was a McKinsey study also recently. And these are studies from the past 3 years, but the McKinsey study is more of a survey. So it's a temperature check, not necessarily a deep scientific survey, but it says the more agents are used and the more autonomous agents are employed, the more rigorous the productivity gains are. So essentially, it's building the digital workforce, as they say. And I'll talk about that as well. The MIT Sloan study was a meta-analysis of over 100 studies, or 106 actually experiments, looking at 370 effect sizes across those 106 experiments. And they were trying to measure human productivity or effectiveness, AI, and the combined performance of human and AI together, seeking to find out if one was more effective than the other. And the key findings of this study were that human AI combinations often outperformed humans acting alone, but rarely exceeded the best AI or the best humans acting alone. So the takeaway is that synergy is most likely occurring when humans and AIs are performing complementary tasks and not redundant or overlapping tasks. And thus, folks putting their trust in AI or delegating decisions to AI can lower team performance. And that division of labor comes through very clearly in the McKinsey study from 2025, which is Workforce Empowering People to Unlock AI's Full Potential, looked at organizations and their readiness to use agentic AI across the organization. So how do they get productivity and workforce transformation, workflow transformation in the enterprise? And what they found is that agents can now autonomously plan, converse, and complete multi-step tasks, such as customer service-oriented things or marketing-oriented things, thus making them legitimate autonomous digital coworkers. And thus, enterprises that are able to tap into that can really gain productivity gains. So it's no surprise that humans and AI teaming are effectively upping the game of lower performing humans and not necessarily performing at the maximum level of a great AI or a great human. It's not a surprise. And it also shouldn't be a surprise that by employing more human AI teaming, that the social determinant theories of work, meaning how do people approach or see themselves in work, will increase negatively, meaning that the more AI gets used in an environment, the more people will become on edge, uncomfortable, and have lower scores on their social determinant theory, i.e., they'll feel less control, they'll feel less purpose oriented to their work, and they'll be unhappy more, which is significant because back in the day, which not too long ago, social determinant theory was a big driver in organizational performance. And social determinant theory, I believe, was purpose, meaning, and autonomy were the three main vectors of scoring of work satisfaction of employees. And the higher your scores, the more likely it is you would be higher performing in general. And the lower the scores, the lower performing an organization would be in general. So how does one actually put that into practice? Well, clearly you have to use AI because it's not going anywhere but deeper into your organization or deeper into your lives. And you got to learn how to communicate better with it because essentially you've got a context window in any of these models. And this context window is what you're putting your prompt into in human language. Okay. You communicate as a human. And so, therefore, the better you communicate, the more effective, the more clear you are, the more likely it is to get the output out of the model that you're looking for. So it's all about the prompt and prompt engineering. So regardless if you're running models in your own enterprise, in your own little sandbox that doesn't have access to the internet or has very limited access to the internet, or if you're in the the private sector or what have you, working on your own models that do have access to broader things, who can go out and do searches and use the internet or search the space of X/Twitter to get answers to the questions posed in the prompts. So regardless of which type of flavor of model you're using, the best approach is having very specific and very appropriate prompts. And what is a specific and appropriate prompt? Well, there's all types of methods to come up with those. There's the structured, well thought out prompt. There's the recursive criticism and improvement approach to prompting. There's a chain of thought prompting methodology, and there's even metacognitive prompting. And what are those flavors and why do they matter? Well, they matter because what you're putting into the system will determine what you get back. So, and I know of research that was done where if you put in a prompt followed by attaching a file or followed by text that describes or provides the context for your question, if you put that context before the question or after the question, you'd get different responses into the same model. And so, or from the same model. So it matters how you put it in. So these techniques are important. So the chain of thought prompting methodology improves the clarity and the completeness of a prompt because you're giving it more of information as you learn it. But as I said earlier, sometimes that can be confusing to an LLM or to a model. And if you are giving, and you only have so much space or tokens to which to provide context for the prompt or for the model to do its work. So other techniques such as progressive hinting prompt or progressive hint prompting, where you're providing a little bit of information and letting the prompt do its work and then adding more information to it as you go down. And essentially that's breaking down the question that you really want to get an answer to into smaller and smaller subproblems that a model can deal with more discreetly. And that is kind of how humans think, a little bit more naturally, that is. And so if I need to get this done, let me do this, 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 and this. And so it's the A, B, C, and D is that you're feeding into the model. The recursive criticism and improvement approach to prompting is where you essentially tell an LLM to run different scenarios and figure out what's the best approach to answering this question. So it is iteratively going through and answering the question and coming back to you with information that it deemed or it has self-evaluated to be more accurate, more consistent, more trustworthy, or more free of hallucinations. So there's multiple approaches to these and multiple theories, and I'll provide a list of them in the show notes so you could do some more research on which is the best approach for me in my situation. So what's the implication of all this research? Why do I care? Well, clearly you want to optimize your prompting. Don't just ask your model for facts and information. Guide your AI through using a multi-step prompting approach. Define clear objectives, incorporate metacognitive or chain of thought elements for complex tasks when you're doing multiple tasks, and remember to iterate, refine your prompts as researchers do. So every time you run a prompt, if you didn't quite get it, copy and improve it and tweak it so that you can see, does this output become a little bit more aligned to what I'm looking for? And since you are likely to be running tasks repeatedly, the more you use or reuse a prompt, the more opportunities you have to refine your prompt and to optimize it. And when you're trying to solve complex problems that are multi-step in nature, then think about approaching it through an agentic AI framework. And you can do that in the prompt, which generally requires you're buying the higher editions than the public facing editions of many models. And those could be the $20 a month versions, where you are defining the agent in a prompt. So with the higher tiered services, you can add more context to your prompt. And by context, you could say, here's the team. We have this role, that role, this role. These are the activities of these roles. And these are how these roles, i.e. agents, are going to act together. And the more you define it, the more the model will better able to execute, get some output, and then give you an opportunity to validate that or validate itself in a recursive manner. So as I said earlier, there is such fast movement in all of these, all this environment. So model context protocol is a way of using databases and APIs call outs to other applications so that you can use them within your model. Agent to agent type communications or platform is also available to get agents to talk to each other. So what's it, Lang Chan, I think, is another third version of that. And then there are services like N8N or Airflow or Airtable that allow you to orchestrate agents working together. So there's lots of different platforms, services, protocols, and agents that are either pre-built or can be built in a prompt that are available to you in complex execution of tasks or multi-agent activities. But it doesn't have to be that complicated. You can create multi-agent activities or teams in a prompt itself. So long as you've written it clearly, you've described the tasks, you've described the roles, you've described the interaction between the agents, you've described the output, and you've described an opportunity for validation or giving the model feedback along the way. And as I said early on in the top of the show, I'd give you a real easy resource that you could use to try out this agentic AI prompt. And the one I developed that I've shared with some of my colleagues that are looking for work is exactly that. It's a job agent that looks at a job description, looks at your work history or your resume, and it makes an assessment of how good of a fit you are for that particular job. And then it makes recommendations to you on how do you close the gaps that you might identify. And it can spit out a modified version of your resume and an updated cover letter for you as well. So there are other services on LinkedIn, I think on Indeed, or Teal HQ, I think, that do similar things for a fee. And this is yours for free. So you can access it via bit.ly link, which is bit.ly/job agent 2025. And there is a capital J and a capital A in that, and that is case sensitive. So bit.ly/job agent 2025. Give it a try. Let me know how it works for you. And lastly, there's a couple things you need to make sure of. One is think about reliability over hype. Be realistic about what the AI's capabilities are, because we really don't fully know. For critical tasks, make sure that you have some human in the loop to make sure that the system is doing what it should be doing, and there's robust error handling, because there will be errors, there will be inadequate responses from the AI. And focus on the boring. Be realistic about the problems in the delivery of these models. Think about exactly, are you getting what you want out of this thing? And lastly, think about security. I shouldn't say lastly, you should think about it more proactively, because there is a new attack surface by using agentic AI. There's more opportunities to insert badness or harm or fallacy into this. And in the enterprise, that's a big concern. For your personal use, you think about it from a standpoint of ethics. These systems are learning a lot about you, and you have to be thoughtful about how much you're willing to share with these systems that are doing work on your behalf, because the more information you put in, the more the system understands about you and your preferences and your likes. So be concerned and be thoughtful of that, because governance is a real thing. So as we're bringing this podcast to a close, it brings us to our CLARION Corner, which is where I challenge you to do something and to share what your thoughts are. Specifically, the challenge for this week is to identify what routine task in your work or your academic life that feels so tedious that you could benefit from handing it off to something, and obviously a model. Think about it, then apply one of our prompting strategies that we talked about earlier today, and try using a structured prompt. Think about making sure you break it down into the tasks and subtasks and outputs. You're giving it an opportunity to be critiqued and refined along the way, and that you're tracking the results of, did I get what I want? Did it deliver what I needed? If not, how can it be improved? And think about this agentic AI output as a reality, because the more you do it, the more reliable it will become, and hopefully the more insight you will get from using these models. And then I ask you to share your experience with us, either in the feedback or hit me up on X, Derik P, or on LinkedIn, Derik P, and I'll share my links again. And so we want to hear from you. Let us know what worked. So thank you for spending your time with the Optimization Edge. And your interest in scientific approaches to optimization is greatly appreciated. Hopefully I've answered some questions that you might have and provided a couple of ahas that you didn't know. So to recap, generative AI or large language models will definitely be in the loop, in your enterprise, in your thought space from here on out. So the better you get at prompting, the better it will be. Think about multi-step, metacognitive or recursive prompting, recursive criticism prompting methods as ways at getting more effective. And again, I'll provide those in the show notes. Agentic AI moves from beyond chatbots in and out to multi-agent working together on your behalf to handle complex tasks. Using model context protocols will enable repetitive integration with alternative databases and or systems to help your model interact with the world. Agent to agent standard protocols as well is another way of having agents communicate better with each other. But remember, all of these come with more power and a larger attack surface. So they are a security risk. While this is not the place for the latest up-to-the-minute suggestions on which tool or which device or which approach is fastest, better, it's more about what's the theory and what's the science tell us about how optimal we can get around using science to optimize our lives. So I'm hopeful that this content was useful for you, and I welcome your suggestions on future optimization topics, like agile ethnography is one that I've heard, or using therapy as a way of optimization. So open to all your suggestions. Write me, text me, IM me, let me know. And until next time, we'll see you at the edge, the Optimization Edge.